What a throw by Patrick Mahomes.
Tyrone Matthew with the big hit. Mostert out of nowhere.
A perfect pass from Jimmy Garoppolo. The Chiefs, the 49ers, are big game bound.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Big Game Bound. This isn't Jarrett Payton. I'm Jack Doles. Jarrett, he's got some duties right now, like, hang out with the commissioner and those kind of things.
But I did babysit Jarrett, so I think I can speak on his behalf.
So
I don't have the athletic ability or the DNA, but, we'll be all right. I'm Chris Hagan, and we're ready to finally get down to brass tacks as the big game. Jack, it's almost here, baby.
It's almost here, just about a day away. So today, our team focus, well, it's going to be on the teams. The 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. And who better to break this down right now but Rob Collins from Fox 4 in Kansas City. He's been a frequent guest on Big Game Bound. And so it's great to have you in here, and it's been great to meet you in person, Rob.
Yeah, it's been great to see you. I've heard you in my earpiece several times yelling at me. I'm like, it's like my wife's in another room yelling at me. I'm like, oh, hey, there you are. You're good to go. You're a real person. It's all good, man. It's been great. Thanks for having us.
Oh, absolutely. And so what is it like in Kansas City right now? 50 years since that last Super Bowl, and now here they are a win away from a championship.
It's crazy. Everyone in Kansas City is nuts. Every day is Red Day. We usually have Red Fridays in Kansas City before Chiefs games. Well, it's Red Sunday, it's Red Monday, it's Red Tuesday, it's Red Lunch Day. Everyone going to the cleaner 7 times a week just to pick up their new red stuff. But it's a fever pitch as we get closer to the big game. We're 24 hours or so away now. Folks in Kansas City are going to be glued to their televisions. 50 years of football, Super Bowl, big game futility. They're wanting everyone to raise that trophy, especially Coach Reid.
So you had the Royals win a championship not too long ago, a few years back. How does this compare?
Very similar because they're on the kind of the same track. The Royals in 2014 didn't get to the World Series, fell a little bit short. Kansas City Chiefs last year fell short by 5 inches when Dee Ford lined up off sides and killed everybody's hearts and dreams and desires, and everybody just fell off the map. But it's the same kind of fever pitch. You can't go anywhere in Kansas City, the metro area, without seeing a Patrick Mahomes banner, kids wearing Patrick Mahomes wigs, people naming their kids, their dogs, their goats. Everyone's named Mahomes now in Kansas City. This city is going to go crazy come kickoff time.
Yeah, he's got a lot of Mahomies. Is he reached rock? Is he the biggest rock star in the history of Kansas City?
My goodness, no question about it. I think so. Other than maybe George Brett, he's up there on par. Because whatever Patrick Mahomes does is the gospel in Kansas City. Patrick Mahomes walks down the street in traffic parts. I wish that would do that here in Miami when you walked around and you had to get through traffic. But everything is Patrick Mahomes. He is the unequivocal leader. He is everything in Kansas City. You can't get enough of him no matter what you do. People are eating his cereal and drinking his water. Everybody's eating it.
Well, you think about that one bullet point you want to have on the resume, and that's not just to get to a Super Bowl, but to win one. You think about some of the great quarterbacks of the past, never won a Super Bowl this early in his career. And Jack's talking about rock star status we know about in KC, but nationwide, we know about Mahomes already, but this would really take him to that elite level status, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think it's ironic and also a good thing that we're in Miami because Patrick Mahomes is well aware of Dan Marino's track, right?
Yeah.
Where you're talking about Dan Marino on the scene, bam, the hottest ticket in the world, get to the Super Bowl. One time. You never got back. So Patrick Mahomes and all the Chiefs are well aware of that. They have the guys on there that have been there, Terrell Suggs and other guys that have been there once, haven't gotten back in a long time, and he's been preaching to those guys, the young guys, because they're a young team. Chiefs are very young. Everybody's pretty young. The big stars are young for sure. So Pennell, the older guys, Suggs, the older guys, are telling these guys, you may not get back, man. You better go out there and take this moment and live it up and don't leave anything back, man. Seize the moment. Seize the day.
Yeah, I don't know who your mayor is. But I know who Len Dawson is.
Yes.
And that was 50 years ago. He won that championship.
Yeah, exactly. And Patrick Mahomes wore that Len Dawson hoodie, the one where the famous one where he's having a Fresca and having a smoke at halftime of the Super Bowl. Mahomes wore that one day coming into the game. And so he is most definitely the guy that everybody will know and has known. And if he wins this game, he will be one of the biggest rock stars, if not the face of the NFL.
Well, you look at this. We got Dr. Oz. I need a checkup. I don't know if my PPO is covered, but we'll go over there and check in and see what's going on. You're inside the belly of the beast, speaking of getting a checkup with the Chiefs. One thing that Jack and I have noticed is the reference to the kingdom
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that? Is there truly a kingdom going on over there
Yeah,
in
it's
KC?
Chiefs Kingdom. It's just a big group of the Chiefs fans. And you guys, you've been to Arrowhead. You know,
yeah.
people get there at like 5 in the morning before the gates open. I'm serious. There are dudes out there with big trucks. They got their Traeger grills out there. They're grilling, and Andy Reid drives past these dudes every day when he goes in. There's a guy that offers Coach Reid a cheeseburger every morning when he comes in before games. But these guys will get everything ready, open the gates, they'll go in, set everything up, and tailgate for 5 or 6 hours. And the Chiefs Kingdom is strong, it is huge, it is growing all the time, especially because of what Patrick Mahomes can do on the football field.
You think about I've had the privilege to go to basically every venue in the NFL, and you can't beat Kansas City. You think about some of the atmosphere as far as the conditions, sometimes icy, sometimes cold, but we were out there for the playoffs last year. They were out there early. They were ready to rock and roll. And just almost like a college atmosphere when you think about how engaged for every single play the Chiefs fan base is. And so from that perspective, it would be great to see those folks rewarded.
Most definitely. Those dudes are living on the edge of their seat on every play. And inside, you know this, everyone stands up for the game. No one sits down in the lower bowl for all of the Chiefs games. That's how invested everyone in. That's why it hurt so bad when they got so close last year because, I was up in the press box like everybody else, and when we saw the interception, we were like on cloud nine, heard hallelujah from the angels because the futility was over, right? Almost 50 years of it. And then we looked down and saw that laundry on the field. It was devastating to everyone in Chiefs Kingdom. And this was the goal for them. Clark Hunt said it in the preseason. The goal is winning the Super Bowl. They won the Lamar Hunt Trophy, finally put it back in its resting place, its rightful resting place. We all know what Mr. Hunt did for the NFL. But Clark Hunt said that was the goal, and all the players have bought in. That's the goal, win the Super Bowl, not only for the Hunts, but for them and for Andy Reid.
Well, here in Big Game Band, we go beyond the headlines. We talk about the Chiefs. It's all about Mahomes, Andy Reid. But I think a huge part of this game will be that Chiefs defense because if the Niners are running the ball and burning the clock, you don't see Patrick Mahomes. What kind of onus is on that unit because they know the quicker we get off the field, the quicker we have our stud back out there.
The more you have Patrick Mahomes on the field, the better chance you have to win, right? Obviously, San Francisco knows that with their three-headed monster. They're going to try to run that ball. But Kansas City defense is getting slighted, in my opinion. And, yes, I'm a little bit biased because they've been one of the best defenses in the last 6 weeks in the NFL. They got behind early in the 2 playoff games, yes, but they have Patrick Mahomes. He can bring them back. We saw how fast those dudes can score points. That second quarter was unbelievable when they came back against Texans.
Stunning.
Yeah, it was stunning, just like it was in Oakland at the first of the season. I was at that game in Oakland when Mahomes hooked up with Sammy Watkins and Mecole, 4 touchdowns in the blink of an eye. But Tyrann Mathieu, Chris Jones, and Frank Clark, they're the leaders on that defense. And they've talked all week about being sound in their gaps, being sound in their pre-snap reads to make sure they're not in position to get burned when Jimmy Garoppolo has to throw it to Deebo Samuels and the other guys. And he can throw it. Yeah. He doesn't really have to do it a lot because the run game is so good, just like Tannehill. Mm-hmm. But we saw what the Chiefs did to them. They stopped Derrick Henry, albeit one dude, not 3. But when the Tannehill was forced into action, he didn't do so well, and that's what the Chiefs secondary is hoping will happen to Garoppolo coming up in the big game.
Yeah, it's funny how one bad performance early in a season can often – people just forget 6 great performances in a row, and here, yeah, they look really good right now.
It's just like when we go play golf, right? You don't remember the pars, right? You remember the snowman you had on the par 3, right? You don't remember the easy par on number 6. You remember duffing one out in the woods and hit one in the water, and then being in the sand on a 150-yard par 3, right?
Do you guys put arms on your snowman when you have it on your
no,
little
man.
hat on top?
The best club I have in my bag is the eraser. So no snowmans ever. Although it does snow in Kansas City, but not on the card.
It's snowmen. It's not snowman. There's more than one.
You got the whole family like people on the minivans they have on the back.
Right down the line. You talked about a legacy for a quarterback like Mahomes, and this has kind of been beaten to death. I think he's kind of shown what he's worth, Andy Reid, but you'd like to have that bow on the career. He's got more years ahead of him, but he's been there, so many good things, but he still has that label of, well, when's he going to win the big one? Could this be the time?
I believe so, and I think everyone is so invested to make sure that happens. Coach Reid, 15 playoff appearances, 221 wins, the most wins in the NFL without the Super Bowl trophy, and we've seen it all week long leading up to this game. There's nationwide sentiment. Even fans in Philly who don't like Andy Reid when he was there are rooting for him now to win, and the national media, a lot of other coaches and players are rooting for Coach Reid to finally get that big win because he's a great guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a really good dude, and I think that's why everyone really wants him to win because he'll do anything for anybody. No job's too small for Coach Reid, and we're lucky to cover him on the daily basis because we get to see that side of him. Maybe some other people don't.
Well, I know if the Chiefs win, There'll be a lot of restaurants naming hamburgers after Coach Reed.
Already are.
Yeah. And then will the city of Kansas City change its name to the Kingdom?
That would be great. Or Mahomesville. Mahomes City, Patrick City.
Home Sweet Mahomes.
Yeah.
Home
Yeah.
Sweet Mahomes.
We
You
go
can
all
use
day.
that.
All right.
I'll give you permission.
Home Sweet Mahomes.
All right, Rob, we got to cut you loose.
All
We got to talk 49ers right now.
Okay.
But thanks so
hey, man,
much. for all
appreciate
your
y'all
work.
having us.
Good luck.
Chris,
We'll see you
good
soon,
to see you
bud.
again, buddy.
Enjoy the Super Bowl.
Thanks, sir.
JB.
Hey guys, I think that folks probably in California and the San Francisco Bay Area right now, they're thinking, man, I am so sick of hearing about the Chiefs right now on Big Game Bound. But lucky for you folks in San Francisco, we spoke to Cron 4 reporter. It was our own Jack Doles who spoke to her last night outside Hard Rock Stadium. She couldn't be here today with us on Radio Row, but she was with us last night. Take a listen to Kate Rooney here from Cron outside Hard Rock Stadium previewing the San Francisco 49ers in Super Bowl 54.
If we get a night like this on Super Bowl Sunday, we'll be in great shape. Joining us right now on Big Game Bound is Kate Rooney from Cron. You have covered this team all year long. This is a team that I don't think a lot of people thought would be here when the season started. I know we talked about this a lot with Mark Carpenter, and each week people started going, and made believers out of it. This team made believers out of them. When did you become a believer?
I have to say, and this might sound an odd response, but I became a believer after a loss, and that was the Ravens game on the road, a game the 49ers easily could have won if a couple different pendulums had swung in different directions. And that convinced me that, hey, at the time the Ravens were considered the front runner for the Super Bowl in the AFC, and if the 49ers can play this well against Lamar Jackson, at the time also probably considered the eventual MVP of the league, then there's no team that they really can't handle. That was the week that I became that they were really convinced. And then after that, their other losses went on to show me the same thing as well, including the one against the Seahawks earlier in the season. But in every loss, they had a chance to be in that game. And that, to me, in a way, is almost more impressive than all the winning they've done. They've found great ways to win all season and pretty good ways to lose as well.
So you're there, you're in that locker room, you're around this team. What makes them special?
Well, we've posed that question to them a lot, right? Because obviously it's the talent, obviously it's the coaching, obviously it's some of the smart decisions they've made in the front office, like bringing Emmanuel Sanders in the middle of the season when no one was really sure what they were going to do about their receiving situation. But I think that it really has to do with the chemistry and the mindset. That's the thing that these guys have really said, and it seems to be true. They really pride themselves on not getting too high, not getting too low. They really maintain an even keel no matter the circumstances. They didn't celebrate any of the wins too hard, including the first round playoff win. They really didn't celebrate at all until they won the NFC Championship. And they've just really tried to stay focused, locked in, keep it about this team, about what they're doing on the field, and about their execution. And they love each other. They have a good time together. Ask any of them. They'll say that it's one of the most special brotherhoods that they've ever been around, and that's translated.
You know, every locker room will have kind of that alpha dog or some of those leaders. Who are the guys that have really kind of set the tone for the 49ers?
Well, Richard Sherman, of course, because he's a guy who's outspoken, he's a guy who's a veteran, and he's a guy that a lot of the younger players watched when they were in high school and college. So they really look up to him and respect him, and he has a great command of the locker room. But also George Kittle. He's a younger guy who just has such a big, energetic, optimistic personality that he provides, I think, just a happy-go-lucky vibe that everyone responds to really well. And there are a lot of other big personalities on the team, too. You look at the receiving corps, another group of young guys like Deebo Samuel, Kendrick Bourne. They are just full of fire and life and joie de vivre all the time, and it rubs off on the rest of their teammates. And then, of course, you've got the more quiet veterans like Joe Staley, but they have a really good mix of personalities, I think. There's a little bit of something for everyone, and it blends all together to make a really great product.
I've covered some NFL in my time, and there's always a couple of guys that are go-to in the locker room for journalists. I've got to believe Richard Sherman might be that guy.
You know, as someone who has covered the 49ers and grew up in San Francisco watching the 49ers, I can't say that I was a huge Richard Sherman fan until he came to San Francisco, but
not when he played for the Seahawks.
No, he's quickly become one of my favorite players because he is so eloquent, gives such thoughtful answers, is almost always, very few exceptions, really willing to talk to the media. Even though he has a weekly podium session, he also will chat with us in the locker room, and he's just great to talk to. There's Raheem Mostert is actually another guy who, even before he broke out, is someone I would approach in the locker room because he is just so nice and will give you some thoughtful answers as well. And, I think those are the things that as a media member you really appreciate. You don't want those 2 to 3 word answers like you get from some guys. They've got, like I said, a great mix of personalities on this team.
All right, Kate, your thoughts on this matchup? 49ers, Chiefs in the Super Bowl. What do you see happening on Sunday?
I think it's such a fantastic matchup, and I've just been so excited since we knew that this was going to be the one. It's going to be so great. Will the 49ers be able to establish that run against a Chiefs defense that has really struggled against the run during the regular season? Will the 49ers be able to handle Patrick Mahomes and his crazy arsenal of weapons that he has? I think it's going to be asking a lot, not just of the 49ers pass rush, but especially of the 49ers secondary. But that being said, I think the 49ers are a really complete team. They've shown all season that they have depth. They have guys who can step in even with a litany of injuries that they faced throughout the season. And I have to say, hopefully it's not just a bias from spending time around this team, but I do think they have all the tools to win a championship.
Are the guys on the defensive side of the ball getting tired of hearing questions about Patrick Mahomes?
I'm sure they are. They've had to say multiple times this week, how are you going to stop Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah.
What are you going to do with Tyreek Hill? What are you going to do with Travis Kelce? And for them, they say it's all about doing what we've done all season. We're not going to reinvent the wheel. We want to show that the execution that we've presented all season has been successful against so many different types of quarterbacks, whether that's pure pocket passers, whether that's guys who have more escapability like Russell Wilson, whether it's bowling balls like Lamar Jackson. They've been able to do it. They don't feel like there's any reason they can't handle what Patrick Mahomes has to offer.
All right, Kate, last thing, your bold prediction.
My bold prediction. You want me to give you a score prediction?
Sure.
Okay, let's. I think it's going to be a close one. So I'm going to say 31-27 49ers, and I think a defensive player is going to be the Super Bowl MVP.
All right, you heard it here. I said 27-24.
All right, we are back on Big Game Bound. I'm Jack Doles. This is Chris Hagan.
Just call me
from
Chris.
Indianapolis.
Yeah.
I'll just call you Chris.
I tell you what, we've been counting this down. A lot of folks get here maybe Thursday, Friday, game weekend. We've been here since Sunday, and you talk about seeing this place come to life.
Yeah.
Stars. Take a look around. I mean,
well, that's Ricardo Lockett,
Yeah.
and he's at the next table, and
You
he's
start-
going to be with us very shortly. Such an incredible story.
you start thinking about the media, the superstars. I saw Ric Flair out there
Yeah.
earlier talking to Michael Irvin. It's like you never know what to expect, what you're going to see here on Radio Row. So it's been nice to have you guys, you and Jared Payton, bringing that to all the folks across the country to see here on Big Game Bound all year long. I know how much work you did to put this thing together to do the show, and now here we are. We've talked a lot about the Chiefs. Let's talk a little bit about the Niners. You had a chat there we just saw, but yeah, I want to see what Jimmy Garoppolo can do if he's called upon to lead a drive in the fourth quarter. If he has to do more than he has been doing,
Right.
How will he respond to that? We talked to Rob earlier about the Chiefs' defense. They feel a little disrespected. Let's see that matchup. Everybody wants to see Mahomes go to work. What can Garoppolo do when the chips are down? They need a field goal. They need a touchdown in that fourth quarter. You think he'll be up for that challenge?
I think he will. He hasn't been called upon to do it in the playoffs. They haven't needed to. And I think they'll try and prove that they can run the ball just like they did last time against Green Bay. And if Joe Staley and that offensive line, McGlinchey, if they can bust up in these holes again, Jimmy Garoppolo's happy to just hand it off. But, yeah, I think when called upon this year, he's been really good. In the preseason, there was some of that talk because he had one bad preseason game, made a couple just horrible decisions, got a bad pass or two, and all of a sudden you're starting to see those stories about, he's a terrible practice player, garbage. I don't care about practice. I want to see that result on the field, and here they are in the Super Bowl, which tells me Garoppolo can handle it.
And look what we saw, when you have a running game like the Titans had in their upset wins. Ryan Tannehill didn't have to do much because you're moving the football. That's what we saw against the Packers for the Niners, moving the football. And there's nothing more disheartening for a defense to just have that. They're lining up. They're going to run the football, and all they're doing is moving the chains and burning 2 or 3 more minutes off the clock. You see some of those epic drives, 7, 8, 9 minutes. That just crushes a defense, lining up, getting beat man on man, and then your offense is just standing there twiddling their thumbs saying, well, what do you want me to do? I'm sitting here watching.
Yeah, and I still go back, and Kate brought up this point. One of the great moves this year was the 49ers picking up Emmanuel Sanders. When they were who are our weapons? And they bring in a veteran presence like that, and that just helps everybody. And it opens the field a little bit. I mean, you cover the Colts. You know what it means to have a quality receiver who can be that go-to guy for a quarterback.
Sometimes you miss those tweaks that happen in mid-season that are huge. And look at this. Speaking of huge, coming in hot. He's coming in hot. He's got gifts. I thought he had stuff for me.
What's up, guys?
It's great to see you. I'm Jack
Good
Doles.
to see you. Chris Hagan. Good to see you.
Ricardo Lockett.
We know that. And an incredible story. Ricardo, first career with the Seattle Seahawks.
Ricardo's going to leave if you say that again.
No.
For sure.
So right now we're breaking down this matchup.
Look at that. It's no joke.
Yeah, let's look at those rings. Isn't it fun to just wear those?
Yeah, man.
That's a lot.
You got to work your wrists out, man. It gets heavy after a while.
I mean, that's fantastic. I love to see these rings. And do you get blown away walking around here and seeing those Hall of Fame jackets? And do you even get in awe when you see a Joe Montana and some of the guys you're seeing walk around here?
It's more of like when you play high school and college football, and then the guys come back that graduated, 2 or 3 years before. It's like, oh, what's up, man? Coach been telling me about you, or they say, oh, I watch film on you, and that kind of thing. So it's not more of excitement from a fan standpoint unless you were a fan before. So a lot of times you end up understanding who these people are once you get to a certain age because you didn't watch them when you were young because they played so far before you. So once you get tuned to who they are, then it's like you have a different respect for them. So it's cool.
So we're breaking down this matchup, 49ers and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And first, who do you like? What's your bold prediction?
49ers.
Are you sure about that?
I think so.
49ers.
Why the 49ers?
One, because I played for them. Two, because one of my best friends, Richard Sherman, plays for them. And three, because it's my dad and my brother's favorite team.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I played for him, and I played in the Super Bowl.
And you played for
it. Right.
You were talking about, seeing some of the veterans come through. Is that one of the things that maybe when you're in the middle of the journey, you don't appreciate it until you've come through the other end of the fire? You see these old guys like, oh, whatever, he played back in the day. You don't realize the respect they're due until you get through that journey yourself.
Exactly. So you're like, oh, man, whoever, like whatever, like I'm fast, I'm strong. But then once you're not playing anymore and then you walk in that locker room and it's like, man, you don't understand the work that I put in. You don't understand the physical pain I endured just to continue just to play. You come here now and you say, oh, the Seahawks won the Super Bowl or the 49ers went to the Super Bowl in 2012. But what did we go through to get there? So now, you walk by the players and they have no clue who you are. So it's like, hey, I'm here. I played in the last Super Bowl you guys were at. It's like, cool. So, yeah, like you said, that's exactly how it is.
So they've got some veteran leadership in that locker room, and you played with Joe Staley. What does a guy like that bring in? What does he mean to your team?
Joe is his role is going to be imperative because I think what happens a lot of times you get blinded by the lights. You get blinded by it's the Super Bowl. You get blinded by we had 2 weeks of playing and I'm just ready to get over and all these other things. But he's been there. Joe's played in the big games before, and it's going to come down to the team that settles in first. You're not playing the Patriots that's there all the time and they're for sure settled in. You got two young teams that a lot of these guys never been in the playoffs. So now they're playing in the Super Bowl, so it's going to come down to who can take that deep breath and just relax and just understand that it's still the same football field, it's the same ball, and just play ball.
And a great point you made about kind of been through that before. Jimmy Garoppolo never played in the Super Bowl, but he was there twice with the Patriots, and he said he knows what to expect. He knows how the buildup is and all the distractions that can be there. So even though he doesn't have that on-field experience, he's been there and done that as far as all the hoopla that leads up to the game, and that could be important.
That's true. And I didn't think about that. That's what makes this conversation great. But, yeah, for sure. So you got Joe, you got Jimmy. Who's on the Chiefs that played in the Super Bowl?
I haven't studied up on that.
That's a good trivia question.
Yeah.
Do you know the answer?
I don't. Maybe we're going to leave it to the fans.
Well, we have to tweet us some answers on that.
Chiefs fans tell us.
But that's what you said. Like everybody tells you.
Andy Reid's coached in a Super Bowl.
Frank Clark? No, he didn't win one.
No.
He wasn't there with us.
But you said about, every athlete, you've heard this a million times, regardless of the sport. I've been to NBA Finals. Like I say, I'm going to treat this like it's another game. I'm going to treat this. And you're like, no, you're not. Because when you see those lights and before that ball gets kicked, it's going to hit you. Does it hit you when you're like,
it's going to hit you?
This is Super Bowl.
It's going to hit you unless you've done it before. So, like, for me, by the time I got to my third one, then I was like, okay, and
it takes three to get there.
It was my consecutive third one, So, your first time touching the stove is different than your fifth.
That should be on a T-shirt right there.
Yeah. So I know Chris hasn't played in a Super Bowl, and I haven't played in a Super Bowl. What is it like those night 3 before, night 2 before, the night before? What is that like?
Nerve-wracking. You're just ready to get it over with, because you're the type of person, you're the type of man that if something happens, then you approach it head on. Most of these guys are alpha males, so that we don't talk about stuff too long. Even if it's a confrontation, there's no you push me, I push you back. It's not a lot of talking. It's go time. So this is the only time where there's a lot of talking. There's a lot of build-up. There's a lot of interviews. There's a lot of this and that. So you just ready to do it.
Tony Dungy told me one time, he said, look, every NFL game, especially in the playoffs, it's going to come down to like 4 or 5 plays that's going to make the difference. But the thing is, you don't know before those 4 or 5 plays what is going to happen. You don't know the ball's going to come your way. Oh, this ball's going to bounce funny. That's why this is so much more magnified than a Week 7 game against Denver. This is the Super Bowl the world's watching. And that one play where you miss an assignment, they're going to the house, and you're remembered forever in a negative way.
Exactly. That's why. The first week, we go over all game planning, all this and that. The second week, we're going to revise it, and we're also going to go more into depth on the player. So first, you have to understand what you have to do. So when you understand your job, then you have to understand how to do your job and manipulate that person's responsibilities. So it's pretty deep. It's pretty deep, man. It's a lot. In
addition to doing 7,000 interviews, everybody wants to talk to you, the media day circus and all that stuff. I can only imagine. But one thing I wanted to touch on you real quickly is you talked about people don't realize the work you put in. They remember those 16 games in the playoff. They don't realize the off-season workouts, the grind, the trying to get yourself rehabbed and ready. When you think about, you look at players nowadays, you got Andrew Luck retiring before he's 30, Luke Kuechly. These are Pro Bowl type guys. People are starting to realize, even in the prime of their career, what kind of toll this can take on your body during your career and then obviously after.
Exactly. So, and that's why after football, I decided to get with the Harvard Football Group. And you can follow them at Players Study on Instagram and Twitter. But so what these guys are doing, you got a group of the world's best cardiologists, the world's best neurologists. And what they're doing is they're studying football to figure out how they can make it safer. They're figuring out, is it the helmets? They're figuring out, is it the shoulder pads? Is it the workload? Is it the amount of games? Is it caused by middle school, high school, college head-on collisions? Do you have CTE before you get there? So it's a lot of things that we have to figure out, and those guys are working day and night to get it done. And I have no doubt that they'll make the game safer.
Ricardo, of course, if you don't know Ricardo's story, go read a story he wrote, column he put together for Players Tribune. It's fantastic. It gets into great depth. How hard was it for you to make that decision to walk away from this game? Because we know how much work you put in, and you've had the chance to play for Super Bowls, and maybe could have been more in the future.
For sure.
But you took a hit, and just got to scare the daylights out of you.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, anything that doesn't kill you makes you stronger, for sure. And we've all been through things that we wanted to happen. We wanted to go another way, and you just had to sleep with it. And nothing your wife, nothing your sister, nothing your brother can tell you makes it better. So with me, football, once I got hurt and my career ended, I had already went to a Super Bowl. I had already won a Super Bowl, which was never in the plans. My only goal was to just do something and to put my family in a better situation, and I did that. So once it was over, I felt like I had completed most of my goals. So it wasn't hard for me to say goodbye because I don't feel like I was born to throw a football. I don't feel like I was born to catch a football. Neither you guys. I don't feel like you guys were meant to throw and catch a ball. Like whatever your purpose is probably has something to do with making your family better or people around you or something that leads to leaving the type of legacy that you want to leave behind. And right now working with Football Health State is going to give players that you're cheering for, the Chiefs and the 49ers that are playing in this game, it's going to give their kids the opportunity 10 years from now for their dad to drive them to work, for them to throw a football with their son, for them to walk their daughter down the aisle. Because it's I get the calls that you fans don't get. Concussions, suicide, depression, I'm not who I used to be. Everybody used to glorify. Everybody wanted to see me on TV. They wanted to interview me. Now I'm in the house by myself. Nobody cares. I lost my money. We're figuring out how to change all of that. So I'm excited about this part of my career.
I know I've talked to a lot of athletes, and especially Olympians, after an Olympic cycle's over, depression hits. Because all those cameras and all those reporters and all the people that have helped you to get to where you are along the way, they're gone.
Even veterans.
Yeah. And so how do you get through that?
It's tough, man. If your family, everybody in your family stopped talking to you today and you moved into another apartment and you was there by yourself and they never called and checked on you, never wrote you any emails or anything, how would you get over that?
Probably never.
Yeah.
You'll never, because you're going to keep thinking about it, keep thinking about it, keep thinking about it. And then even if you create another family, you're still going to think about it. Right. So that's just it's something that's just a part of life. It's just, it's just one of those things.
Well, sometimes in life, you need somebody to get to the other side and pull you through, and I think you're doing a heck of a job on that. And you look like you could give us at least one good series out there. Right. I think we could trot you out there. I don't know about the conditioning, but one series at least.
Oh, I can give it to you. It's all heart and mind. It's all heart and mind, for sure.
Ricardo, thank you so much for joining us. And again, if you want to know more about his story, read his column on the Players Tribune. It is amazing, and you'll learn a lot about what this game is,
for sure,
in all different facets.
For sure.
Speaking of injuries, he just hurt my hand with all those rings. You'll be hearing from my attorney, Ricardo. Well done.
Right, I expected that.
All right. Awesome,
all right,
good
guys.
stuff.
Thank you. I enjoyed myself. Thanks for having me.
Well, that's awesome when you hear, like he said, everybody wants to talk to you when you're in the limelight.
Yeah.
But then that limelight dims. And you think about the average career in the NFL, 2.5 years. Not everybody plays like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning for all those years. And there is life after football. And it's important to have guys like Ricardo that's giving you that lesson.
Yeah.
Speaking of learning lessons, look at this guy.
I'm going to teach you some things.
Well, we got a Northwestern Wildcat here, Darren Ravel, and if you need to know about the business, Darren, my son Tommy Doles played football at Northwestern.
Oh, yes, I know that name.
Great to have you here. We look around Radio Row here, and how much commerce is taking place?
A lot. I mean, I'm surprised Radio Row still exists and we haven't gone all digital, but the fact is this is very unique with people walking around, and you can't do this in studio, so Super Bowls continues to be, it's my Super Bowl, if that means anything. So, it continues to be big, and obviously from a gambling standpoint, it's just going to, almost $7 billion will be bet this year legally. That's changed things. It hasn't changed things from the NFL recognizing it, but that's going to happen when their next rights fees comes up, and the Disney is not the one that has the most cash anymore. It's Amazon and Apple, and they don't have a Mickey Mouse stopping them. And they're also really good at micropayments and one-clicks, and I don't think that's any accident.
So how much is, in 5 years, 10 years, for fans to watch football, how much different is it going to be? Are they going to be sitting in there?
I think we're finally going to give up the TV as though the TV has. If you look at the iPhone 11 and the clarity, right? Before it's been like, the TV just has a clarity that the phone doesn't have. The iPhone 15 is going to be amazing. You're going to be able to see those blades of grass. It's just going to be like a 4K. So I think ultimately what people want to do is live bet. Live betting in Europe is 75% of the game. It's less than 5% here. It is. I gave myself 10 grand this year to live bet. How can I do it? I want to try to figure out what's the best way to do it. It's amazing. I'm like a stockbroker during a game. So basically I have 19. There's 19 apps in New Jersey. I have 19 apps on my phone, or I pull them up on the computer. And you have to try to figure out, where are your advantages in the moment. Then you have to figure out what sports book moves fastest from play to play. Mm-hmm. And then you have to figure out, and this is very key, you have to figure out which sports book also lets you execute the trade fast enough, right? Like, if a sports book's going to spin and spin and spin, and then the next play happens, and I'm like, I don't want that anymore. It's like I put 250 on this. so I've had some keys. I've had some learnings. The opponent's 32-yard line, that is where you are making your best bet. So you're going to bet, are they going to score 0, 3, or 7? And based on that, you're figuring out either the total, the points, or where that team is going to be against their opponents. And then you figure it out from there. You also, the greatest things is, so I am not liking the Chiefs or the 49ers in this game to start, but I'm going to live bet it. And I'm hoping, when you do live betting, if you're going to do it right, you have to know what your strategy is going in. I'm hoping that the Chiefs get up 10-0, and then I'm going to pound the 49ers.
So that's the interesting thing. In Indiana, where I live, it's legal now, and it is like playing the stock market. Let's say you have the Steelers. The Steelers are down 14, and you're okay. Now they're plus. You can get them live plus 6.5. Wait, I want 7.
Right.
I want at least 7.5.
Right, you can do the points, or you can do the money.
Yeah,
I love doing the
money line. Is huge. Yeah. I've done that before. But what I want to talk about.
By the way, if the Steelers are playing a team, if they start as the underdogs, or they're playing a team that is a greater public than them, which is a little bit harder than
right for the Steelers. Yeah.
Like I made the most money I've ever made live betting the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, because it's the Cowboys, it's the casual audience who's doing it. It's the Cowboys.
They're a public team.
They're a public team. They're the favorite, and they're up 7-0 on the Bills 4 minutes in. The Bills' money line at that point is basically 6-1 that they're going to win. I'm like, wait a second. You know how much time is left in this game? Like that, the real line should be 2-1.
Right.
But it's 6-1 because you have the public, the Cowboys, Thanksgiving. People who shouldn't be betting are betting, and I'm against you.
And the minute you like you said, you'll hit that button, and it'll say, no, it changed.
Confirming.
It changed.
Right.
It changed. I want to ask you this because
80% of the time, by the way, the way you know you're good, getting good live betting is 80% of the time I either lock out or it changed.
Right.
Right.
It's hard in basketball because every possession, but football you wait for that TV timeout. But at the Kentucky Derby for years, part of that excitement, what draws all the famous people, they go make that bet at the window. There's talk now at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway having windows to bet the Indy 500. Do you think we'll get to a point where there you are going to an NFL stadium and they have windows for some action?
No, and I'll tell you why. That was what we thought it would be, but windows aren't profitable. Right, so Capital One Arena will have a sports book inside. You'll be able to bet during NHL and NBA games. But the kiosk is not profitable because you go up to that kiosk or you go up to that window. That's a one-time thing. They don't even know who you are. That's not of interest, right? They want, and this is how it works for at the Prudential Center for Devils games. They have 4 or 5 gambling sponsors. They have something that looks like a sports book. Walk into the William Hill Sportsbook. There are no kiosks. They have nice women who come over and say, hey, you should download our app. It's all about downloading the app. That's all it is, because then they get you, and then they get you when you're home. I don't know if this guy's going to be at 1 Devils game or 17. I do know that if I get him to download the app, then I've hooked him. So it's all about hooking. The kiosks are, that's what, hey, is it going to be like Europe? And the kiosks are unprofitable, and they're one-offs.
I just have to say, this sounds really complicated. When I was in college, I knew a guy, and I'd bet $10 here and $10 there in a game.
And by the way, it's that's why illegal gambling will still exist, because DraftKings ain't giving you credit. All right, all right. If you're down 10 grand, DraftKings, which will be publicly traded, will not be giving you credit. So there still will be that. It's actually not that complicated once you kind of get started. And at the Action Network, we kind of help you there. I will tell you, you can put in your bet in our app, and it will show you what your wallet looks like in the moment. So it will.
It will look like this.
There you go.
Let me ask you this: when you think about the immediacy of the apps, and you think about like you got Jack. He knows about, okay, I want to go, I like the Niners to win this game. But then there is such a sophistication now, and that's how you really can make money. If you know, okay, this team, they struggle in the first quarter. The other night I thought, Victor Oladipo was coming back, so everybody was on the Pacers.
Right.
I'm like, they're going to struggle because Oladipo is not going to come back and score 45 points.
It's all about the quick edges. I mean, I can't tell you how many people in our office make more money betting than their salary. Because one guy walked.
We got to go work for him.
One guy walked into the office the other day, and I'm like, "Hey, you get that watch on Canal Street?" Like basically saying that's a fake watch. He's like, "No, it's real." I'm like, "Oh, okay." Looking at his like $30,000 watch, and basically it's all about you're not wrong. You can be wrong at any time, but it's all about the edges. I have a guy. So I'm in New Jersey, and a lot of people in the office in New York. Before I left, I had my editor call me up. He goes, I need $1,800 on – hold on. $1,800 on this – I don't even know what it was. This player under 27.5 receiving yards in the Super Bowl. I can't even tell you who it was. And I go, okay, what 27.5? What's your edge here? He goes, all the other sports books have it at 21.5. And I'm like, so you're betting $1,800 on the fact that he will not break through a trip. Like, someone will try to tackle him. It'll be a shoestring tackle. And whether he, it's 5 yards. And I'm like, why would you do that? It sounds so crazy. He's like, it's an 18% difference. What are you talking about? Like, that's how they think.
Right.
And is he going to be right? Maybe, but he's going to be right more than wrong.
And it's in the Super Bowl is where you see all of these props. The long list, they break them out there at the Westgate, and they have a big party.
Indiana allowed the Gatorade this year.
Right. So I've seen before, what will be the first song that J-Lo sings? What will be this or that? So by
the way, there was a controversy last year because I ran the Chicago Marathon, and that was the day that I was supposed to bring my wife to Adam Levine, which is the only person she's allowed to have sex with besides me. And so she really likes him. And so I said, I'm sorry, I got to make it up to you. Oh, he's singing halftime to the Super Bowl, but we're not going to the Super Bowl. Okay, I'm going to try to get you into the rehearsal. So I got her into the rehearsal through Pepsi. 2 hours later, I have the NFL calling me. Yeah, you can't go. I'm like, what? You're into betting. I'm like, oh, right. Because there's a $50 maximum bet. I am going to risk my entire reputation that I've built for 20 years with the NFL trying to make $45.45. Is that
with the insider trading? Yeah.
Oh, you're going to tell other people. Oh, I'm going to tell other people so that they can make $45.
$1 billion. Well, you think about this. This is only the fourth time in the history of the Super Bowl the number has been 2 or less points. So really, in this particular Super Bowl,
by the way, the 49ers should be the 1.5 point favorite, but it's just because people love offense more than they love defense that's how it.
So you'll see that in college football, your Alabamas, your Notre Dames, the public teams. It's kind of weird in this situation because neither one of these has had the recent success you're not talking about. Everybody's going to bet on Tom Brady.
No, Kansas City has turned into a public team. Has turned into a public team.
So that's why you think that number's that way instead of the Niners.
It's not that it's wrong. It's just, people think Patrick Mahomes is the 2018 Patrick Mahomes, and maybe that's because he had an injury. I'm just saying he's not. He's not last year's Patrick Mahomes to the numbers, right? And people don't give, other than Nick Bosa and even, Richard Sherman, the 49ers don't have enough marketable players on defense that people can love the defense.
So what are you looking for when you're getting ready to place a bet? I mean,
just little edges there. So we have on the Action Network, we have algorithms that will tell you every prop and what's the projection on that prop. You're looking. I like to bet against the public, and the reason is there's true value in betting against the public. I like to bet against something where the public thinks it's the case, but when you look at the stats, it's wrong. So 3 weeks ago, I was telling everyone for the playoff game, I bet Lamar Jackson would not have a rushing touchdown. People are like, that is the dumbest bet I've ever seen. And I'm like, okay, how many rushing touchdowns does he have? And they come up with the number, and I go, okay, how many games has he had a rushing touchdown in? Less than half. Okay, fine. Last week I did that Derrick Henry would not have a touchdown of any sort. Now, People were like, that's so stupid. I'm like, no, you're looking at his yards. You're not looking at his – let's look at his touchdowns. Let's look how many games he's had a touchdown of any sort, okay? And it's on my side. Now, 5 minutes in, he scores a touchdown. The rest of he has 69 yards the entire game. I got caught up in a situational thing. It's not touts are like, I knew it. I just tell you I have an advantage, and I'm going to be on the right side more times than wrong because I'll look at the stats and deeper. So I can still lose the bet though.
Yeah. What's your advantage? What's the bet you're making this week that people are telling you, oh, that's stupid?
I'm going to take the under on the points, right? So it started at 51.5 and now it's at 55.
Mm-hmm.
To move 4.5 points on a Super Bowl, the Super Bowl should be the most refined game of the year, right? We have 255 games. They should just press a button, and whatever that total is, that should really stick. The fact that it's moved 4.5 points suggests to you that people think it's wrong, and but I think that I just got 4.5 points to work with. I'm taking the under. I don't think now I could still lose, but I just think there's a better shot at the under in that.
Now, as a disclaimer, what I always tell people.
But I'm live betting the side. I know
exactly.
what I'm doing. And when you're live betting, I would just say the best thing to do is come in with a strategy. You should know what you're doing before you're doing it. Because when I haven't come in with a strategy, I'm just like, that's ridiculous. My famous game where I kept Hawaii San Jose State this year, where I was like, there's 21 points scored after the first quarter or something, and the total was 87. And I'm like, there's no way it's getting to 87. And somehow it became the only game in college football that didn't have a punt, and it got to 87.
Well, remember, I always tell people there's always a way. My disclaimer to folks out there that when they ask me about gambling, I always say bet just enough where you're excited to win and it hurts you to lose. What would be your piece of advice for folks out there? Because it can be a problem for those who don't show that kind of restraint, and they can, like you said, next thing you know, they're done.
So my piece of advice, and I'm looking down at my phone now, is to write down every single bet you make with what you win and what you lose. So, and you don't need to write it down because in the Action Network we have everyone. So I pull up right now. In the NFL this year, I was 95, 67, and 1. 58.6%. I made $1,900. I then go in, and this is every bet that I made.
Oh, wow.
So I have every bet, and I can look at it. By the way, I had a run here that was legendary.
He scrolled down to that one, yeah.
I thought I could never be wrong. But yeah, no. So if the wife says, she knows when it's a bad bet, like anyone. But like I say, everything's in here, and if you're looking at your bets, you can't make them disappear. And then you really know, and you write how much you're putting on it.
So how do you avoid, when you're on a hot streak like that, not getting a little careless?
Well, because I don't think I'm a tout. I don't think I'm invincible, and I don't think I'm not going to be wrong. I still think, again, 58.7% that's the best year I've ever had. So it's like you're not invincible, and as long as you don't have an ego about it, I think you have to continue to do work.
Yep.
I'd say this. In closing, I'd say this. People say, I'm not into gambling. I'm like, do you do stocks? You trade stocks or no? And they say, yeah. And I go, okay, let me tell you why sports betting's better. When a game happens, there's a winner and a loser. You either win or you lose your bet. In the stock market, Amazon comes out with their earnings, and that earnings beats the number that the analysts say. And then they come on CNBC, and I worked there for 6 years, so I know. And they say, yeah, but it didn't beat the whisper number. Wasn't as big as what we thought it was going to be, and that's why the stock's going to be down. Wait, but Amazon won, and now they lost. Yeah. And they only have to report 4 times a year. They only have to tell you, I know a lot more about Victor Oladipo than I know about stocks. So sports gambling over stocks.
And you can close the book on a bet, and we can close the book on – we could talk to you all day, but good
all
stuff.
Day. All right.
Darren, thank you very much.
Darren, good to see you, buddy.
Appreciate you. All right, JB.
Let's go to the Wizard.
All right, everybody. That does it for this episode of Big Game Bound. Patrick Mahomes, Jimmy Garoppolo, Man, they're going to be taking the field with Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, the entire San Francisco 49ers, Kansas Chiefs contingent. Man, I hope you're as excited as we are. Jack Doles, Chris Hagan, I'm JB Buno. We have a different time tomorrow, everybody. It is going to start at noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central. We're going to have a 2-hour special. We're going to be streaming all the way up until kickoff. You won't want to miss it. Everybody, for Jack Doles, Chris Hagan, I'm JB Buno. We'll see you tomorrow. Super Bowl Sunday. Super Bowl 54 between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers.